Because of the amount of inquiries I got on this, today I'm going to do a vid going over the type of firearm that I carried with me on my solo canoe trip into the BWCA wilderness. Not only am I going to go over what I carry, but more importantly why I carry it. I chose it because it gives me the most amount of options. It's kind of like how I make a lot of decisions. It gives me the most amount of options, and it's the lightest for giving me the most amount of options. Even carrying a firearm on a trip like this is a total option. I've replied to many comments on this subject on many vids that carrying a firearm on a lightweight backpacking trip or canoe trip like this is a luxury. And there's probably a small amount of people out there that are even going to be able to relate with what I'm saying. If your only experience is taking your Walmart tent into your local park and putting it up, or walking from your truck to your deer stand with your rifle, you're never going to understand what I'm talking about when it comes to lightweight backpacking. The packs that I'm carrying now are less than half of what I carried in the military. When you're lightweight backpacking, you are counting ounces, not pounds. And a firearm is a very expensive piece of real estate. So it's an option, it's a luxury. It's something I choose to do because I think it's part of my mental makeup. If there is a chance, however slight, of me needing that firearm in these scenarios, I want it. I want that option. It's part of my preparedness. Many choose not to take a firearm with them because the chances of you having a problem with an animal in the woods is so remote, it's not worth the wait, especially if you're trying to lightweight backpack. And that's true. You stand a better chance of dying of a lightning strike than being attacked by a bear or a cougar or a moose. You stand a better chance of dying of bee stings. Bears aren't looking to attack people, they're afraid of people. And if you take my advice in my solo trip vids of just keeping your camp clean, most likely you're not going to even run into a bear. They're going to see you first and get the hell out of there. But I went up there before without a firearm, and I just don't like it. I like to have that firearm with me. It is a scenario that I could possibly experience, and if a bear decides to attack me, I'm going to kill the son of a bitch before he touches me. That's pretty much my plan in every fight I've ever been in, and it's my ongoing plan. I have just made a decision that as long as I'm physically able to, and it's not a problem, I'm going to take a firearm with me for that particular scenario. And it's not just bears. They say the most dangerous animal in North America is a rutting moose. And I've ran into moose about half the amount of times that I've went into the BWCA. And yet I've never had a problem with them. And I've had some close encounters with them as well. In fact, one of the closest encounters I've had with a moose was 25, 30 feet away. I was with a couple buddies of mine. We were on a 2-mile portage, and we just decided to stop. It was around lunchtime. We were hungry. We stopped on the portage and set up our kitchen and was preparing our food. And a cow moose, a huge cow moose, silently steps out onto the trail 25, 30 feet away from us and looks at us. I mean, it's unbelievable how large and prehistoric these creatures look and how silently they can move through the brush. I mean, I sound like a hippo going through the brush up there because it's so thick. She just stepped out on the trail, looked at us for 5 seconds, pointed her head forward again, and went into the other side of the bush. And then her calf followed right after her. It was an incredible experience, but she didn't want any trouble. I do kind of think about what could have went wrong had I had my dog with me on that trip. A lot could have went wrong. Now, if sky was the limit and weight wasn't a worry, I would just take an 870 beat up pump shotgun and some slugs and some birdshot, and I would feel fine with that. But there's no way that I can take that on a trip like this. And not only am I, looking hard at the weight, but I have to take into consideration of laws, and not only the laws of my state or the nation that I live in, but another nation, namely Canada, which has very strict laws compared to what I'm used to, and especially when it comes to sidearms. So, I want to say that too. That's why I hesitate to even put this up, because a lot of people, a lot of so-called experts are, they may not agree with this, but remember that I don't care. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to continue to do. I've looked at this very carefully. I am confident that this is the right decision for my needs. So if it doesn't work for you, just don't do it. I don't care what you do. I don't care about your knots or your knots either. Okay, remember that. And I don't care about what you think is safe. Remember that. Safety is a personal choice. You make your own safe choices, I'll make mine. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're watching my vid. On the side here are several examples of pack guns that I've used in the past. This is an old police trainer, a 38. It's pretty heavy, it's at 1.5 pounds. But what I liked about that, and the reason why I chose it, is because it's a junk gun. I didn't care what happened to it. And that's another thing you want to take into consideration as a pack gun when you're going into the brush. I mean, you're going to beat the hell out of that gun. You don't want to take a $1,500 or $2,000 Kimber with you because you're really going to ruin that gun. A pack gun is going to destroy the aesthetics of that weapon. And so I liked that, but it's very limited. I mean, the ballistics of a 38 are pretty limited for, you know, what I might encounter if it comes up to be. And, you know, I was never really satisfied with it. This made it a little better. This is an Airweight Smith & Wesson. It's actually my everyday carry. And it weighs around 1 pound, fully loaded. And so that made it a little better. Since it was a 1/2 pound lighter, which is a big difference. But still, ballistics, I'm pretty limited on what I can do with it. The 357 here on the side, not only are you going to destroy that as a pack gun, you know, you're always worried about, you know, how much damage you're doing to it, but it's really heavy. It's over 3 pounds loaded. So that was a big chunk of weight to be carrying as a pack gun. None of these really ever sat right with me. And there are other weapons out there that would work maybe better in this area or that better, have better ballistics, or maybe be a little lighter. We could go on and on with this, and I'm not going to do that with this vid. You know, the Taurus line of Judges is a good example of that, but still you're limited. But the biggest thing is, if I get caught with one of these, either with, you know, by a customs agent or a Mountie or a Ranger up on the Canadian side, I'm going to lose that weapon. I'm going to lose my investment. I'm going to be big time fined, and I'm going to have a record in Canada where I'll probably never be able to carry another firearm in there if I ever want to go hunting or for whatever reason. So you know, that's always on your mind. You don't want that nagging at you or holding you back when you're on these trips up there skirting the border. None of these are going to be acceptable to Canada. And if a Ranger or a custom agent from the Canadian side finds you with this, it's going to be a whole world of hurt, and you're probably going to lose that investment, that firearm, forever. Now, of course, there's more to this, but in a nutshell, I'm really hoping that the info that I just gave you really sets up the reason why I choose this and explains why I choose this as my pack gun. I take a Checkmate VZ44 flare gun with me, and I take an insert from Kenison. Now, people have been putting inserts into flare guns for a long time. This is nothing new. I've seen people just use black pipe and make 12 gauge inserts out of black pipe that you go from Lowe's with. People have been doing this a long time. Kenison makes a really nice aluminum sleeve with a steel barrel in it, and it's pretty cheap. I think the insert itself is around 70 bucks. I paid 50 bucks for the flare gun at a gun show a long time ago. But people have been putting inserts in flare guns a long time. Believe me, this is nothing new. But this is what I found that gives me the most amount of options. It gives me the firepower that I feel comfortable with, and it relieves all the stress of crossing borders. Let's go over the major downside to this right away. It's 2.5 pounds with the insert, and that's pretty heavy for light packing. But it's something that I can live with. It meets what I need, and it's light enough that I can carry it. I don't mind it. But it's like carrying a boat anchor with you. The chances of you needing it are extremely slim to none, but it's something that I can live with. I pack pretty light, so I can still take this with fair ease. I don't have to worry about the laws in Canada. Flare guns are legal. There is a clause. They say, you know, flare guns are legal as long as that is their true intent, is to use them as a flare gun. So in this case, it's really not my true intent if I'm attacked by an animal, but you know what? I'll deal with that when I get there. This stays a flare gun even if you have the insert with you. It only changes to a firearm once you put the insert in it. In fact, Kenison sends you a letter from the ATF that talks about that. These things are super robust. You can beat the hell out of them. I don't care if they get wet. It doesn't matter. It's 50 bucks. even if I ran into a Canadian Mountie or Ranger up there, or I had trouble with customs, and he was just a dick, and he just took it away from me because, you know, he doesn't, you know, he knew what I was up to, or he just didn't like me. Who cares? It's 50 bucks. I'll buy another one tomorrow off the internet. So I don't care if I lose the investment. I don't want to, but it doesn't matter to me as much as losing one of my sidearms. And the other thing is, it's not like I'm walking around with this firearm on the side of me. This, many times, is spent most of the trip in the handle of my fishnet, where no one's even going to find it. You know, most of the time I only take this out at night, and that's when I'm sleeping in my tent or my hammock with. The Kenison insert turns my 26.5 millimeter flare gun, which is nice to have, right? I mean, that you could even explain to somebody if you got stopped up there and they're asking you what you're doing with this. If you get hurt up there, it's pretty nice to have a flare gun with you. Talk about, you know, a measure of safety. If you get hurt and you can't get up, and, you know, sooner or later somebody's coming and looking for you, you have a flare gun to fire off a flare so you can signal. But with the insert in there, it turns it into a 410 or a 45 Colt. The 410 slug is very similar in ballistics to the 357 Magnum. So I just carry a few of those with me. And then just for shits and giggles, I'll carry some birdshot with this as well. And, you know, hunting is not a very efficient way of getting game for survival situations. You would rather use a fish net, a gill net, or for trapping, you'd use snares. Hunting is very inefficient, but I have run into grouse up there, and having a little birdshot 410 is a pretty nice way to get a little extra meat on the table. So the VZ44 flare gun with a Kenison 410 45 Colt insert is what I use as a wilderness pack gun. I think this makes the perfect pack gun. For at least for what I use it for. If you're going into the bush or the wilderness, this is a pretty nice deal to take along, because again, it gives me all these options. It's a flare gun. I can shoot bird shot out of it. I can shoot, you know, slugs out of it. Average size black bear is 300 pounds. You know, some of them get as big as 800, 900 pounds, but I think the slug is enough to deter anything out there, at least in the lower 48. So this is my favorite go-to pack gun. This is what I carry almost all the time now. I'll kind of go over how it works. There's a little lever right below the trigger. So in this case, you have to put your finger on the trigger to open it up and load it. Finger on the trigger! And it flicks up like that. It's a built-in safety. The hammer is kept back with a very simple lever and spring system. So you cock it back. Pretty simple, pretty robust. I can easily do this one-handed. It's built literally like a tank, and it's really nice. Insert goes in. Of course, handles the slug. That's how it works. I like it.